أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Ramadan Mubarak and Jum'ah Mubarakah. My name is Dr. Suzy Ismail and welcome again to ITV USA's Ramadan show, Balancing Deen and Dunya, where we interview different figures within our communities, leaders, CEOs, professionals, and today's guest, a principal of a school. So I'm happy to have with us today Sister Arsheen Sayeed, who is the principal of Al-Mamoor School. Just to share a little bit of information with you about Arsheen, she is an educator or has been an educator for the past 15 years under the Department of Education, and also as a community leader, she's had the opportunity to take on various roles. She's played a crucial role in the lives of many students, teachers, and parents. As a high school history teacher, a new teacher coordinator, and a testing coordinator, Sister Arsheen was able to advance in the education field and has worked extensively on curriculum development. After acquiring her school building and district leader certificate, she took upon the role as the principal of Al-Mamoor School in New York City and contributed to the academic and spiritual growth of the students there by focusing on college and career readiness, and by creating programs that emphasize academic rigor while also embedding Islamic values in the hearts of children. Her philosophy of education is strongly linked to the idea that educational empowerment is the ultimate way of freeing society from all signs of dependency. So welcome, Sister Arsheen, to our show.
Alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, Sister Arsheen, I know working in the field of Islamic education is not always an easy journey. And I say this as someone who is a teacher and a guidance counselor in Islamic school for many years, as well as the vice president of the board of directors for about a decade as well, and a parent of children who went to Islamic schools. So I want to hear a little bit more about your journey going from the public school system and moving into Islamic school. What's your take? How do you feel about the shift, and what do you see in terms of differences?
Okay. First of all, thank you. It's a pleasure to join your show. I appreciate you guys calling me here today. So yeah, I mean, I did work with the Department of Education for a very long time. About 14, 15 years, and then I moved on to be a principal at Al-Mamoor School. It was a big shift. When I acquired my building leadership certificate, I was thinking about admin roles, and I came to, I guess, a conclusion that Muslim schools are in need of, a good supportive system. And when I heard about Al-Mamoor School, I was very much interested. So I applied here, and alhamdulillah, I've been here for 4 years now. There are a lot of differences, but there's also a lot of similarities, right? Of course, the Islamic education, the aspect of more Islamic curriculum, the Islamic environment, or some of the differences, but we are following the New York State curriculum exactly the same as any other New York City public school would. And that's one of the biggest similarities.
Yeah, excellent. So I definitely agree. Our Islamic schools have been growing over the past many years, and we're seeing, particularly in this most recent year, post-COVID, an increased demand for enrollment within Islamic schools. I want to kind of zone in a little bit more on the differences. So one of the hesitations that a lot of parents often have when it comes to Islamic school is linked to the quality of education. And the questions often arise that, will my children receive the same quality of education in an Islamic school in terms of academics as they would in a public school? How do you respond to that?
Since I've seen both sides of the world, I confidently can say that overall they get the same education. In some aspects, better. Right? I mean, we can definitely talk about the Islamic studies aspect to it, but also when it comes to curriculum, this class size is smaller, right? That definitely helps teachers plan, prepare, teach in a more productive manner. When it comes to quality of education, teacher training, we have a smaller group so we can focus more on them. So in certain areas, I feel like the education quality is better. But of course, there's like all schools, we struggle, right? and there's just challenges that you have to face, and you have to overcome them, and you have to have strategies in place. You have to have coaching cycles in place to help support teachers and to speak to parents, workshops, activities for students. It's a lot about what you're doing in the school, and that definitely will impact the quality of education.
Yeah. So you mentioned teachers, and again, that's another area of questions or concerns that we sometimes hear. Funding, we know, can be limited for Islamic schools. Funding can also, be difficult, or the financial aspect can be difficult for parents. With the limited funding, teachers often are not paid equivalent salaries as what they would receive from the state. Many times, again, what we hear from within the community is that the teachers that are hired then are ones maybe who do not have teacher certifications, who don't have the experience. And so this may impact the quality of education. What are your thoughts on that?
Sure, it's a very, very valid argument. Definitely the funding that we have cannot compare to public schools. Teacher quality, we can argue both ways, right? We do, alhamdulillah, at least at Al-Mamoor school, all our teachers have a bachelor's degree. Most of them have a master's degree. So I would say they are highly qualified in so many ways. But of course, I can say, I mean, I remember when I started as a teacher, I had my bachelor's, I was going towards my master's, but teaching is a very challenging field, no matter what, right? No matter what educational background you have, once you're put in the classroom, it's a different story, right? And that requires, at least I think on the admin part, a lot of coaching and support and being there for your teachers. And from my personal experience here and outside of Al-Mamoor, I feel like when you create that supportive system, everything kind of falls into place and you can always improve quality, right? And alhamdulillah, I think we try here, just like any other school, there is a process. It takes time. There are differences, but it's not as, I think maybe the name is pretty bad, about Muslim schools possibly, but it's actually, alhamdulillah, it's really good. I think overall, our staff has this connection with Allah, and that makes them, want to try more, and that helps, that helps everyone.
I'm sure. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. So now tell us a little bit about Al-Mamoor School. Is it a K through 12? How long has it been in existence for? And what is the track record? Where do children go once they graduate from Al-Mamoor?
Sure. So Al-Mamoor has been in existence. It used to be a part of JMC. In 2003, we got this building. In 2014, we expanded. Last year, actually, we have a whole new building. We go from 3K all the way to 12th grade. We got the 3K and pre-K program from the DOE. And now we have kindergarten to 12th grade, which is private. And it's a great school, alhamdulillah. Our students, their track record, we had a student go to Barnard last year. We had a student this year that was interviewed by Harvard. We get, they apply to very good colleges. Some get accepted, some don't. Majority of our students do go to CUNY. But I think in the past 3 years, we've seen a lot of scholarships that our students are receiving. They are more interested and they're figuring out different fields that they want to apply to. So I think as we're expanding, they're also expanding, right? And their lookout and the way they're perceiving college life and college and career readiness is also expanding. So it's a process, but alhamdulillah, I don't feel in any way a child's education, if they go to Al-Mamoor, is being compromised.
Okay, excellent. Alhamdulillah, that's good to hear. And again, as I mentioned, I'm a big fan and big supporter of Islamic schools. I think as parents, as community members, a lot of times we need to be involved in order to help these schools succeed. But for you as a principal of Al-Mamoor School, and again, there's a lot going on, right? From pre-K to 12th grade, different needs, different publics that you're also serving. So we talk a lot about balance in this show, and I'm sure that there's a bit of a balancing act going on for you. How do you balance your responsibility and your relationship with parents, with students, with teachers, and with the board that oversees your organization?
Oh, that's a challenging question. Okay. communication. I mean, bottom line is you have to have open avenues of communication. You have to have an open door policy. You have to hear out everyone and try to figure out the best solutions without being hasty, without being irrational. You have to take your time when you're making decisions. And I think the more communication and advice you get and you come together with solutions, the balance is created, right? It can't be a one-man show. No school can be a one-man show. It's just not going to work. It's going to collapse. So I think it's teamwork, it's collaboration, it's community building, and once you go in all those avenues, it helps. And we have an amazing board. Our board is really very supportive, and that helps me a lot.
Good. How many students does Al-Mamoor currently have?
We have about 340.
Okay, 340. So throughout, 2019, that was your first year. I'm sure it was, a bit of a challenge to adapt and to familiarize yourself with everything. And very soon after you began this position, COVID hit. So 2020, things shutting down, the education went online. Then even into 2021, a lot of hybrid was happening. How did you manage that within the Islamic school?
Yeah, that definitely was a very challenging time period. I cannot, deny that. But we came up with plans. We came up with strategies. We spoke with teachers. I had my co-principal at that time. Through his support, we had many ideas, right? And then we were following up with other schools, what they're doing. And alhamdulillah, it worked out. In fact, I personally feel that the education we gave our students during this time was a lot more high quality and better than most schools that I heard of. Because I think, we were on point. We just started the remote classes. We started virtual Zoom sessions, and our teachers were ready to teach. So alhamdulillah, of course there were challenges. I'm not going to say there weren't. There were definitely challenges, but each week we would have this meeting. We would go over the challenges they're facing. We would have Zoom meetings. We would discuss the challenges. Then we would come up with plans on how to overcome those challenges. So we would constantly be, in contact with our teachers to come up with, strategies that would help them.
Good. And I think, that thread of communication has been prevalent in a lot of your interactions and the way that you help kind of run the school, keep things together, and with working with all of the different target publics. So one of the things that we noticed, particularly with students post-COVID, after the Zoom classrooms and being online, was an addiction to online and behavioral addictions that began to develop that also led to severe negative mental health outcomes. What have you been seeing in your school among children, preteens, tweens, and teens within the recovery from COVID and some mental health issues that you might want to address?
Yeah, it's been tough. It's been tough. I mean, it's been tough on the kids for sure. It's for 2-3 years they've been basically learning remotely, and then basically it's a bubble, and then they have so much access to internet, to social media, to their chats, and of course, to get them out of all of that was it still is a challenge. I'm not going to say all of it's disappeared, but definitely coming back to school has helped a lot. Has helped already. We see a lot of changes in their social being, in their mental being, and how they perceive things. And then the main thing I think we focused on, even during COVID and after COVID, was we didn't stop the activities in the school. We had constant events in the school to keep students engaged, whether it was through competitions or it was through just group discussions. We constantly had different events. I think that helped. We have a guidance counselor to support them as well. So there are steps we took. Of course, you're absolutely right that the impact is there.
Yeah, that is. So another big shift, I think, that we saw, particularly in the New York, New Jersey area with curricula post-COVID, was the introduction of the gender-bread curricula, which had existed for quite some time, but really got pushed out. So the idea of incorporating more LGBTQIA+ content in, the reading materials for children, for example. And we were seeing this, quite rampant within public school systems. And within many communities, we're seeing waiting lists for Islamic schools now, even for children who are not Muslim. At least within many of the New Jersey schools, we're seeing this. So how do you, as an Islamic school, provide maybe the alternative where the children who are engaging in an Islamic school education are not so sheltered from the outside world that they suddenly go to college and are exposed to all of this, but are also finding the balance within what the state is applying in the curriculum and how you might teach it?
Well, we are, I mean, for the most part, we're following New York State curriculum when it comes to all academic subjects. We do have opportunities for kids to visit, go out of school, meet other people whenever we can, right? I know I want to open opportunities for for other people to come in, have probably some interfaith-based programs. But you're right that there is a rise in a lot of people coming towards Muslim schools. That is happening. It's a lot, like we're just recovering from COVID. Then you have a lot of other areas that schools need to focus on. So it's a challenge. It's an ongoing challenge. And inshallah, we're trying our best, when it comes to everything. Okay.
Okay. Now, what happens within the school system, within the Islamic school, when children may be responding to something that they've seen online, bringing it into the school system? For example, again, in many Islamic schools, we're finding children as young as 9, 10, 11, identifying as pansexual, identifying as demisexual, using this kind of language within the Islamic school. And we know that our children are not immune to what they're exposed to online, even in school. How does the school deal with these types of issues that may come up?
We do have, Islamic studies. We have sessions for them. We have people come in. I mean, look, this is like an issue or a concern or something that is difficult to address because kids go through so many changes. They're getting information from so many different sources. So obviously, Islamically, we teach them what is Islamically correct, what is from the Quran and Hadith as much as we can. And then, I think of their parents, a lot of these things that go to their parents. I think our focus here a lot is on helping them, become better human beings. But at the end of the day, it's a community effort. It's a group effort. Parents are involved. Parents obviously have certain expectations from their children. And I think, it's different in every home, right? So we're trying just to, at least morally try to support them and tell them what is correct when it comes to the Quran and Hadith.
Okay. So it is the month of Ramadan, of course, and it's a month in which Islamic schools in particular are, a wonderful space in which to encourage children to practice and to, carry through the lessons of Ramadan in their day-to-day life. What are you guys doing at Al-Mamoor to really make Ramadan special for the students?
Okay. So we're doing a few things actually. We had a teacher bulletin board competition where we had the teachers and students kind of work together and decorate our event hall with different Ramadan themes. And that was like spectacular. It was really amazing to see their work and to see how they were all working together and what they produced to give a decorative type of vibe to the school. And Ramadan is here to make, it gives a good feeling. So we decorated the entire event hall. We have a Ramadan show that we actually are going to live stream every Tuesday and Thursdays. And basically it's student created. Students, they talk about different topics and we have nasheeds, we have food recipes on that show. And we're kind of putting this together, so kids have something to watch and see their own classmates. There's this good feeling that they have, so we're doing quite a bit actually.
All right. I love that. Yeah. And that's kind of more of a almost like a motivation where parents can recognize and see the differences almost within an Islamic environment, an Islamic school, what it is that's nurtured and fostered rather than secularism, which is kind of the focus in the public schools more often than not. So let's talk a little bit more personally about you. How have you been able to balance, being a principal, navigating kind of everything that comes with that? And we've talked about some of the challenges already, and maybe your own family life, your own home, your own interests, your own mental health and free time. How do you find the balance?
It's tough. It's very tough. I try to dedicate honestly as much as time as I can to the school, to the kids. My own children go to this school, so makes it easy. I do have a 3-year-old as well, so you can imagine with a 3-year-old, there's a lot that comes with it. I have a very supportive family. Alhamdulillah, my husband's very supportive. That helps a lot. And I think us just working together and realizing, and my kids also realize that, their mom is running a school. So alhamdulillah, they help me a lot as well. And I think that's what keeps me going. For me, I think I prioritize the school as probably the most important thing. And I try that, I get priority here. But of course, my family's there and we try to work things together.
Okay. And I'm sure, taking that time out for your own spiritual rejuvenation, for, your connection with Allah Azza wa Jal, that's, of course, one of the pillars of being able to maintain that balance, I think, in our professional lives and in our private lives.
Oh, of course, 100%, that's just a given. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So tell me about your vision. Where do you see Al-Mamoor school going, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, inshallah? What do you see for the future? Bismillah.
Alhamdulillah, in the past 4 years, the way I've seen Al-Mamoor school grown is I couldn't have dreamed of it. I cannot thank Allah enough for the growth I've seen in this school. And I hope, inshallah, in the future, we have a school for Muslim kids that can compare to, any other high school. I really hope this idea of can a Muslim school be like any other public school is out, because I sincerely believe it can, if we work, it can be better, right? There's nothing that we cannot do if we all together, work together on this purpose. I hope, inshallah, that we see more of our students going into Columbia, going into Ivy League universities, and getting more scholarships. I hope, inshallah, we can compare one day to Stuyvesant, Brooklyn Tech, Bronx Science. That is part of my vision, inshallah.
Inshallah. And, I will say definitely from the work that I've done in the New Jersey schools, alhamdulillah, we are seeing that. I mean, I know within our own school, our students every year go to Princeton and Yale and Harvard and Berkeley. And, now our waiting list includes so many non-Muslim families who want to bring their children in.
Wow.
So that brings me to my next question. What would you do as an Islamic school that as a nonprofit can't really, distinguish between race or religion or discriminate against someone in that way? What would you do if a non-Muslim family wants to enroll their child in your school, just as in the past, many Muslim families would enroll their children in Catholic schools?
Honestly, I feel like if you have a good, strong school, academically, we do have Islamic studies, Quran. I don't know how comfortable, a non-Muslim family would be with these subjects. But if our academics are where they are and we have good teachers and we have more families coming in, there's something, we can consider. It's not something that we've closed our doors to.
Okay. And inshallah, maybe that is the pathway of the future for Islamic schools, where just as Catholic schools were the place where all parents would want their kids to go to, maybe in the future it will be Islamic schools, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah.
Yeah. So what brought you to the field of education? What was your personal journey that made you want to go into this field?
As every child, when they see their teacher, they want to be their teacher. I think that was a part of it. I had some very amazing teachers, and I was very much inspired by them. So definitely that was one of my reasons to go into the education field. But also, when I went into college, I think that's when I realized if you want to make a difference in society and you want to bring about change and you want to help people, personally, I feel the education field is one of the best fields you can be in because it's the next generation you're raising. And I think that can't be ignored. So I think as I grew up, I understood that, yes, it's something I like to do, but it's more than that.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's wonderful. So you mentioned coaching for teachers and how the way that you're able to ensure the kind of the academic quality that is being given, that you do provide, PDs, professional development, and coaching opportunities. What does that look like? How does a teacher, engage in coaching in your school?
Sure. So we have different workshops for them. We have a coach that comes from basically Title I is provided to our schools. So he would come in, he would do some workshops, he does one-on-one with them. I have also a coach that we hired who does observations, who gives feedback to teachers based upon their what they're doing, their performance. We have meetings with teachers to discuss, different strategies that they can use within the classroom. I'm a big fan of the Danielson framework. So I do advocate a lot for that in classrooms when it comes to teachers. I do a training myself with teachers on the Danielson framework and how they can apply that to their teaching. So there's different, workshops on classroom management, on differentiating instruction, on engaging students in learning, on questioning and discussion techniques.
Okay, wonderful. So it's definitely important to keep the teachers engaged. It's also important to keep the children engaged. And again, one of the things that we've seen within education that is on the rise is children being diagnosed earlier and earlier with, being on the autism spectrum, having ADHD, learning difficulties, learning disabilities. And of course, there's lots of studies out there potentially linking some of these elements with the use of devices, the difficulty to focus and concentrate because of what happens online. Are you seeing an increase and a rise in these elements? And how does the school deal with difficulties that may arise from a child that has ADHD or who's on the spectrum?
Yeah, we do. I mean, there are students that probably have an IEP. We speak to parents. We want them to go through the evaluation process if there is a student that will need the extra support, extra help. And alhamdulillah, sometimes it's a difficult conversation with parents, but I think there's more awareness on this topic now than there was before. So usually, it's a conversation, and then we let them know, the steps they need to take if they're interested. Again, I think it comes with your question on funding. And that's where it becomes tough. Because I know that in public schools you can have the CTT classes where you have co-teaching if there is a special education population with the general ed population, and that obviously that helps a lot. We don't have that, unfortunately, at this point, but we do have people that would come in and provide services. We do have tutoring for students after school to help them if they're struggling. But yes, I think in this area, Muslim schools do have the ability to grow.
Okay, I see. So in the last final few minutes of the show, what is it that you'd like to share with our viewers, whether something personal, something about the school, something about Islamic schools in general? What would you like to leave us with?
I just want to say, that at least in my 4 years here, I feel like Islamic schools have gone a long way. Alhamdulillah. I think that if there is this bias that, we're not performing or we're not where we should be, I think it should be community coming together and provide the support system, provide the help, provide the resources, so our students can feel comfortable and be, where we'd like to see them, where all students are. They have the same opportunities. I feel like people should understand that this is not a one-person job; it's a community job, and but there is nothing that we really lack in. I think if the support system is there, we can grow, inshallah.
Excellent. So one last final thought. How can the community get involved? How can it be a community initiative or community effort?
Sometimes people always think about community effort as donating, which is great. But sometimes, just coming in and asking, I want to, I'm an engineer and I want to talk to students about engineering, something like that. Coming in with, expertise that they have, and maybe they can bring it in and show us, how we can use their talent to help our students in that way.
Yes, excellent. MashaAllah. Well, thank you so much, Sister Arsheen. And I hope our viewers are now a little more aware of Al-Mamoor School in New York City. And many of the things that you shared with us really do apply to Islamic schools across the nation. So I appreciate you taking the time to join us on the show today. And jazakumullah khair to our viewers for tuning in. I do hope that everyone will take away a good impression of Islamic schools. As I said, I'm a believer and a strong supporter of Islamic schools. May Allah Azza wa Jal place a great deal of barakah in the work that you do and continue to bless your school, bless your effort, bless the parents, the students, and the incredible board that you have, mashallah. And, I hope that, inshallah, that's continued years of success. Ramadan Mubarak and Jazakumullah khair, Sister Arsheen, and our audience for tuning in today. I hope to see you all tomorrow, inshallah, at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, New York time, in the ITVusa show, Balancing Deen Dunya. Assalamu alaikum.